One. What is up, Facebook? We are back for another pop-up podcast, and today we're talking about risk and leverage. What the hell is that? I don't know. We're going to get into it. But who we're speaking with today is on the Inc. 5000. This guy knows what he's doing. Does a lot of digital marketing efforts, does a lot of stuff for agents, but sort of one of those guys who've tested it all so that you don't have to fall on your face and figure it out with an empty pocketbook. So pay very close attention to today's show because that's exactly what we're going to be covering. We're going to talk about this concept of risk and what risk is. And far too often, I think the biggest mistake I see so many real estate agents make on a daily basis is, am I going to get a positive ROI on this investment or not? Let's face it, that's like the number one question that we hear all the time. And this is what we're talking about, risk. Folks, you got to spend money to make money, and our guest is going to talk all about that today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce Mr. Josh Rhodes of Agent Leads onto the podcast. How are you, sir?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on this gloomy Tuesday here in sunny San Diego, or cloudy San Diego, I would say. So, Josh, go ahead. Tell our listeners a little bit more about who you are, a little bit of a background, and let's get into this concept on risk.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 20-second movie trailer is, I'm a normal guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in the real estate industry for a decade or more in various capacities. And one day I just kind of looked around and I said, you know what? Residential real estate agents all over North America have the same problems, and the industry isn't really stepping up to the plate in terms of equipping them. And so we started our company called Agent Leads to help them. What we say is we help agents get beyond the money line, which is really that glass ceiling that they just can't seem to break through statistically because, Salesforce says they're spending 67% of their time on admin tasks. Cisco says they're not doing enough video marketing. HubSpot saying they're not following up enough to, get the 10 touches to unlock the value. And so we're trying to help get agents closer to the pen. And ultimately, it's what you alluded to, the risk, quote unquote, is just being looked at in the wrong way ultimately. And so we're trying to shatter that paradigm.
How many times do you hear, how much does that cost, instead of hearing, how much will I make? And do you believe that that's sort of right off the bat, you're shooting yourself in the foot?
Yeah, it's a mindset thing, obviously. And I don't want to be the guy that beat the mindset drum today, but definitely 80-20, 80% of the time, what we've discovered, and we've done over 30,000 consultations with residential agents. And so it's kind of like we can kind of complete the sentence almost before it's completed. And the big difference, I think, that's separating top producers in the rest of the pack is the ability to look at it as a business owner and from an ROI standpoint, rather than like comparing your Facebook advertising budget with how much money you're going to spend on the flat screen TV at Costco or consumer debt. It's like, are we consumers or are we business owners? Are we entrepreneurs or are we people who are acting like employees? And that's, whichever you choose, that's great, but just make sure you're playing by the rules or you're just going to self-sabotage yourself.
I see the exact same thing in video. Our whole makeup is just on building a strong personal brand people remember. And you're right. It's like one of my biggest hurdles that we have, at least with some of our clients, is just, hey, you can't put a price on your personal brand, like period. You don't know, like if somebody's going to come back to you in 6 months because of something funny you did on camera 8 months prior, right? You don't know, but what you do know is that you can't put a limit on it. So folks, what we're talking about today is playing the long game. And I love how you said that, Josh, approaching this as a business owner. So let's get into it. Josh, let's talk about Facebook.
Okay.
That's the lowest hanging fruit people are talking about all over the place. And let's talk about ad spend on Facebook. And
sure.
I want you to sort of walk our listeners through, first approach this as a business, step one. Okay. We cleared that out. Now, how do we leverage this concept of risk? And walk me through that, what you mean by that specifically. What does risk mean? And then how can we make a calculated decision to help increase ROI in a positive way?
Yeah. I mean, it's a layered conversation, and you're going to have to help me make sure that I'm clear.
Sorry, I sort of layered that up for you right there, but
no, I mean but it's the most important thing because whether it's Facebook or YouTube ads or whatever. I mean, if billboards are still working for you, I'm going to kind of be platform agnostic for a second and just talk about advertising and ROI. Like, you've got to be ready to spend some money, and I don't mean like go homeless because of it, but thinking on how am I going to liquidate these funds, and what are some funds that I can sacrifice that are not required to pay the power bill in the short term. I think I love what, for example, what Dave Ramsey and some of his counterparts have done in the industry of consumer debt reduction, et cetera, but it's sabotaging a lot of real estate agents and honestly just business operators and owners across the country, across the continent, because they're bringing some of those philosophies into a business setting that are inappropriate for growth. Risk is a tool. Risk is it's a lever that we can use to pry open opportunity. So, for example, a lot of our clients, they're getting a contract or to the closing table between, depending on the market and median sold prices and all the macroeconomics, between $600 and $1,100 in ad spend, they're getting to the closing table, and they're able to go, oh wow. I mean, average commission checks, depending on where you are, can be 4x, 12x, 18 times. I mean, we've got clients in Vancouver, for example, who 18x their ad spend every time they run a Facebook ad. Well, it's because they stayed in the batter's box long enough. There's risk tolerance, but if you're scared to lose $50 on Facebook ads, we might need to we might have to have a conversation about your entire career and like what you're doing for a living. If you're even worried about losing $1,000, I would just say, call timeout. I'm not saying waste anything. I'm definitely saying follow game plans, model the masters, use a blueprint, but you've got to inject capital into your local economy in order to get a return. And Facebook ads, for example, is a great opportunity for you to go out, get brand awareness. I mean, worst case scenario with Facebook ads is that more people know who you are in the grocery store. Unless you're just running ads in the wrong town, right? And you got to really try hard to mess it up that way. So risk is to be looked at as a tool and as a weapon in our fight to increase GCI, and not as a pariah and something I don't need to get near. And a lot of that's baby boomer stuff. The baby boomers really tried to scare us away from it. A lot of it's generational. I get it. But the ones who are unlocking that mindset and understanding what it really means to use ad dollars appropriately, and kind of go out on a limb, if you will, walk the plank a little bit, they're getting windfalls and they're getting commission checks. So, yeah.
You just said something. I don't know if you guys picked that up. We said stay in the batter's box a little bit longer. So because this is something that's extremely important. If you're brand new to like Facebook, for example, and you've never really ran ads, like you're not going to probably see results in the first 30 days. You might not even see them for the first 60 days. Does that sound about right? Josh, can you walk us through that? I think that's a big thing. A lot of people, I don't know, we spend $100 and we think instantly we might get 1,000 back, but you gotta build the brand awareness before you can actually start recouping those results.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a great story, client story to help illustrate this. We've got a team leader in Northern California. His name's Carlos. I'll keep the rest anonymous, but Carlos joined, as a client in 2017 and in September, and came out of the gates, using our Facebook blueprint and follow-up strategy. And he got 70 leads, in like 28 days, and it was more than he'd ever generated, more traction, more he churned up more activity than he'd ever done before. And he's got buyer agents that he's trying to supply and rainmake for, and it was good. But 30 days into it, he was like, I don't have a deal yet. And so he paused his Facebook ads. Now, to his credit, he didn't start ringing the cowbell and calling the fire department and telling us it's our fault that he hasn't made, $1 million off of his $380 in ad spend yet. What he did is he just stopped. He basically walked out of I played baseball all my life, so I have to use these illustrations sometimes, but he stepped out of the batter's box. And, the pitcher continues to pitch. The economy continues to play. And he obviously nothing happened. And so he came back around in spring of 2018, literally like 6 months later. I think it was April or May of 18. And he turned his ads back on. He actually just turned them back on, which is not a best practice from our standpoint. But he literally just flipped the switch back on instead of doing some other things like duplicating and starting fresh with the Facebook algorithm. But his leads started blowing again, and he kind of crossed the $500, $600 threshold. And this is all happening without our knowledge. He was not complaining. He just kind of quit and came back into the batter's box. And then he emailed me and said, "Hey, Josh, can we jump on a quick call?" And we got on a phone call, and he was like, "I was calling you at first, or I wanted to talk to you at first because I wanted to see what I was doing wrong." And he said, "Last October, I turned my ads off. And now I've turned them back on." I was like, "Okay, well, when you turned them off, how much money had you spent?" "About $280 to $350. "Okay. Well, how much are you at now?" "Well, we're just about at $600, and we've got 2 contracts in the pipeline." And I you kind of want to reach through the phone and slap him around a little bit, but it was also an exciting moment to go, yes, this is it. Like, you got back in the batter's box. What would have happened if you'd have been generating leads for the last 6 months instead of, taking a siesta? And so he got it. And my point is, the patience will come when you view risk appropriately. Risk viewed inappropriately, immaturely, or out of character will make you lose patience and ultimately make you turn the ads off and play safe and conservative. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. What do you see on average? Like, for an agent that's looking at Facebook, I know it's hard to put a number on it. Everyone's like, how much do I have to spend? But realistically, you guys have a good sample pool of agents. What does an agent really need to get their head around? Like, if you're thinking about running like Facebook ads, like for real, really running them, like playing the long game, right? Yeah. Running an ongoing campaign and all that. What are we looking at?
Well, it's a little bit like Baskin Robbins. There's so many flavors of campaigns you can run. But I'm just going to be very meta with you and just say, our clients, 1,500 all over North America, millions of dollars in just zoomed out local ad spend. If I'm looking at that data, we're going to see leads coming in between $5 and $10, depending on the economy and local economy. Silicon Valley, with $1.2 million median sold price is going to it's going to be a little bit more expensive lead than Butte, Montana, where there's a lower population density. But at the end of the day, the economies all match up. You can still 2x, 3x, 4x your ad spend in a high-end market. Even San Diego or some of our metropolitan cities doesn't really matter. And the reason why is because until further notice, regardless of Senate Capitol Hill headlines, Facebook and Instagram have the attention of the U.S. and Canada populace. And so it's all about frequency and where attention is and eyeballs. And so if you want to go generate 50 to 100 leads a month, your best opportunity to do that is Facebook and Instagram ads. And you're probably going to clock out, $3, $4, $5 to $8 leads, and just do the math and back out of the economics a little bit. And if you're doing a great job, and I alluded to it in the beginning, one of the reasons why we started our lead assistant program is because agents are overwhelmed by admin tasks, and they're just simply not following up with leads appropriately. And I know, if you're watching or listening to this, you're just like, yeah, I'm sick of people telling me to follow up. I get it. But unfortunately, it's just part of the game. HubSpot says that you don't unlock the value of a lead until the 10th touch. And what you've got to understand when you're generating leads and you're filling your pipeline is that your pipeline, it's not this short. It's not like an incubation period of 30 days. start now, have patience, build your list. What we say is attract traffic, build the list, convert sales, A, B, C. Like instead of 67% of your time being eaten up with admin or busy work, figure out a way to go 80-20 and 80% of your time being spent on ABC, attract traffic, build the list, convert sales. And we're not trying to replace referrals. Like no one will ever replace the lay down lead that Aunt Sally sends you. It's just impossible.
Right. Totally.
But at some point, you know, you're not going to be able to scale beyond your referrals unless you are literally the Kim Kardashian real estate agent of a very small zip code. Ultimately, you're going to have to figure out paid advertising.
Tell me about, very well put, and I think everyone followed that very clearly. Let's switch gears. Let's get into content.
Yeah.
So folks, long game, obviously multiple steps, which means that we have to have multiple touches, which means you have to have probably multiple forms of content. Let's talk about that because I'll tell you one of my biggest pet peeves I can't stand is when a realtor just says just listed or just sold. Like I can't stand that because you're bragging to everyone else how you made more money, and you're not making your client feel like a client. You're making them feel like a transaction. Yeah, and it's super cold. And trust me, they see that shit on social and all that. So I hated doing it. I think a better practice is I get what you guys are trying to do. Like I'm all about reminding people, hey, you're in business, but there's just a better way to put it. Start telling about how you helped them and the goal that was accomplished specifically. Like this 69-year-old homeowner just downgraded his house and saved $1,000 a month. Here's how. That's saying the same thing, but it's in the form of a story, and it's very more HGTV-like-esque. So I want to go through content, right? Like what kind of content should realtors be creating? We're all about content. We're all about content creation. Our whole thing is creating the human side of it. We're not so much on the sales messages. We're more on like, hey, I'm not going to rip you off. Do you like me? Like funny, crazy stuff. We're all on attention. So let's walk through what am I trying to say? Let's walk through like a scenario. Like what should my first ad be? What should a second ad be? What should a third ad be?
Can I touch on what kind of like one step higher, maybe like a framework?
Yeah, please.
I think having a framework or kind of an operating system on, especially if you're an agent who's comfortable creating content or creating your own actual marketing assets. For example, let's just say you're an agent who's super motivated to do Facebook Lives, 3 times a week or whatever. And those are few and far between in all honesty, but those who are doing it are really getting some good results. There's 3 types of stories that all agents need to be telling. You've got your origin story, you've got your client stories, and you've got your product story or your service story. And ultimately, the one that's least scalable is your origin story. Like why did Mike become a real estate agent? What's the unique unicorn angle part of his life that can maybe connect and emit authenticity with his listeners? But a lot of people aren't going to be super concerned with what Mike's origin story is up front. So that's used better down in the pipeline somewhere to kind of
love that.
Yeah,
real quick. Let's put this in the context. Folks, don't make your first ad. I've been in the business for 15 years and sold 40 houses with your green blazer and your fucking realtor pen. Please put that shit away. No one likes it. But save that ad for like step 7 or 8 or 9, right? And make it more personable. Do one with your kids. Do one like running around on the beach. Do one like just smiling, having fun. Take off the shirt tie. Take off the damn suit. Put on some fucking sandals. Sorry.
Yeah.
Got a little excited.
100%. Well, I mean, enthusiasm's where the money is, right? So you've got to follow the enthusiasm. And ultimately, what your clients or prospects are enthusiastic about has nothing to do with your brand or your brokerage logo or your MLS number. All they care about is how fast can you get me what I want? And so ultimately what you've got to lead with are the product stories or the client stories. So get the testimonial videos, get 30 to 60 second testimonial videos. Like you can run those as Facebook ads. You can run those as super profitable Facebook ads married with good copy and a resource. So always provide a resource. Maybe that's a list of homes. Maybe that is 6 tips to sell your home faster, and it's a PDF download, or maybe message me or jump into a messenger bot campaign. But the video that was actually playing in the ad was, Aunt Sally's referral that you saved them made them extra $10,000 that they didn't even know that they could make on their listing, et cetera, et cetera. But like, those are client stories. Product stories are numerous and almost infinite. Those are the content, stories, and videos that you can make that you're taking for granted as an agent right now. But that everyone out there in marketplace land, really, if you would just tell them about it, it's called preeminent marketing. There's a old marketer named Claude Hopkins who went to help the Schlitz beer company in the early 20th century. Schlitz was like 16th in the industry. They were trying to not only stay afloat, but obviously regain some number 1, number 2 status. And so they brought Claude in to be a marketer. And it was in Minnesota in the Great Lakes area, and I believe, don't hold me to that. And he got up there and he was like, they were giving him the tour and showing him like the artisanal wells that they get the clear, crisp water from that makes the beer, and the big like ceramic vats and the process.
Yep.
And Claude was like, show them how you make the beer. And next thing you know, they're number 1 in the market. They're number 1 beer in the entire country. And it was because they started showing the market around them what all of their competitors, and including themselves, were taking for granted. So what's it like then for you to show first-time home buyers how to choose a mortgage broker? And maybe you're interviewing a mortgage broker, or maybe you're with a broker while he's going over an application and he's talking out loud on what it takes to, qualify for X, Y, or Z loan. Or maybe you need to just do a 30-second to 2-minute video on what is an earnest money check, et cetera, depending on your niche, right? Depending on who it is that you're trying to attract, the type of honey you put out there, or the type of people you're going to bring near to you as clients. Sure. That's kind of the framework: origin story, product story, client story, over and over again.
And it's just those 3. I mean,
it's easy to remember.
I want to just really simplify this even more for you guys. Like, there's a whole, like, we talk about this all the time. I mean, there's a whole television channel called HGTV, and they've already proven the concept of the appetite for the types of stories that people want to hear, folks. So just go ahead and tell them, like, believe it or not, real estate can be a very tough business, and people actually are interested in what we do on the daily.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of you being able to go ahead and tell those stories. So let's give them some applications. I think this will be beneficial for people. So if I'm you and I just got a divorce, or I'm going through a divorce, and as a result of my own divorce, and I'm a real estate agent, I had to downgrade and sell the house because my significant other was a pain in the ass and I wanted to punch him in the face, and vice versa. It was really ugly. I'm sorry. That's the number 1 story I'm telling to relationship statuses of people that are on the way out the door. All right. Now, you're going to connect. 1, connect. 2, educate. Another story, every single buyer, every single seller is a case study. When you start portraying their case studies and start describing the journey and the goal they accomplished with their house problem, which is really all you're solving, it's a whole nother ballgame. And now you're selling without selling, you're attracting, and you're just doing it through storytelling. 2, would you agree that storytelling for a real estate agent is probably the number 1 skill to adapt right now? I would too.
Yeah, 100%. Because like what you just said, if you tell the story of X, Y, or Z client, their story is going to match dozens of other people who just haven't realized it yet. And they don't realize that you're an agent yet, So telling that story might make you visible for the first time for a matching. It's almost like you're trying to match avatars. That particular couple and that particular life stage that went through that particular home buying process with you. Mm-hmm. There's 10 or 15 more of those couples, probably 2-3 degrees separated from you, that if they just see the story that they're probably understanding very well, they're going to gravitate to you as an authority figure. It's all about increasing trust and increasing authority. And telling that story increases both.
I had I got really into storytelling probably like 7-ish years ago, and I had trouble. I knew it, but I had trouble understanding. So I wanted to really dumbify it even more for you guys. If we go back to human history and we go back to the Egyptian days, and if you go into an old pyramid, what are you going to see on the wall? You're going to see a bunch of pictures. Now, back then in those days, and even the cavemen, they did nothing but tell stories. The human race has done nothing more than tell stories since the existence of humankind. And it's just because that people understand and relate to stories more. People follow stories. And if you don't believe me, go turn on your TV. That's what a sitcom is. Why do we have movies? Why do we have Facebook? Facebook is nothing more than the stories of your friends and families. That's the only reason you know who the fuck had a baby this week.
Totally.
Right? This is all story-based. Everything we do is a story. When you discipline yourself just to become an expert storyteller, you will start attracting business. You will have no excuse to remind everyone what the hell you do for a living. And trust me, you'll become a little mini celebrity on social if you discipline yourself to capture those stories.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the reason why agents listening to this or watching this, the reason why they're not currently telling stories are 2 or 3-fold. Number one, they're busy, like in a bad way. Like busy doesn't necessarily equate to accomplishment, or activity doesn't equate to accomplishment. And so they're distracted by things, because telling a story, and maybe you disagree, but like telling stories takes focus. But once you tell a story once the right way, you can tell it a lot more. And it's once you tell it the first time in a video format or in written form, then it's scalable. Then that story can be told via a Facebook ad as your loudspeaker to thousands of people in your city or neighborhoods on autopilot. But it takes some focus. So you've really got to figure out, okay, what is the story I'm going to tell? Why am I going to tell it? And what are the parts of it that are going to attract the right people coming up and getting more prospects in my pipeline? But you've got to really combat busyness, and you've got to also get over the fact that no one cares about what you say, or you're not comfortable in front of the video camera. There's ways to get around that even, some little tricks like do voiceover slideshows with fantastic, authentic, non-stock photo pictures.
You don't like the stocks?
Yeah, I mean, like, let's just take some real pictures. Like, again, people want authenticity. They want to know the curbside appeal of their actual neighborhoods or actual farm market that you're in. And so there's ways, like where there's a will, there's a way. But I guess everyone, more than anything, kind of going back to mindset, is like, you've got to be willing to commit to this. And unfortunately, they didn't tell you that you're going to have to be a storyteller and a content creator when you were getting your license. And I think that's one of the biggest crimes of the entire industry, honestly. And so that's why we've got to, like, guys like you and I have to really fight hard to help create a vehicle that takes agents beyond the money line, or that glass ceiling that they keep bumping up against.
Yeah, when you become a good storyteller, I think you stop selling, period. And I can't tell you how many people are like, I hate like talking about interest rates. And trust me, so does everyone else on social media. Like all your market updates in front of a whiteboard with your shaky ass camera. I'm sorry, you're giving more people headaches than you are giving them value.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with the content you create. But what Josh said is right on. A lot of times the way we could sort of overcome that is create a series, create a show. Right. And then you're no longer the focus of it. You're just simply a spokesperson of it. And that's really the way that from a mindset way, when you put yourself in, you treat yourself as a spokesperson, just reporting the news in the housing world. It's a difference in you start storytelling and you stop preaching.
Yeah. And I think you got to remember, like, people want the dream. Yeah. They want a good interest rate, but they want the dream. They want something they want the better version of themselves. And while they'll probably create the objections of interest rates and the objections of various other common things that you're going to hear, ultimately people become buyers. They become clients of yours because they're looking for some kind of status mobility. That might be a super like visible, nice American dream home status. It might be a school system that they want to get into. In real estate, it's actually that marketing, I guess, law that I just exposed, really, which is there's really one central reason why people buy anything, and it's because they're trying to create some kind of status mobility. In real estate, it's actually a really good law, an easy law to leverage, and it's what allows us to take risk. So until people stop buying real estate and until people start creating more land, the industry that we are in, competitive though it is the easiest one, ironically, to sell, because people want the dream. They want more status opportunity. They want to move up. And if you can figure out what that sounds like in story format in your local area, whether you live in a military-based town, whether you live in a Silicon Valley tech town, whether you live in a rural, whatever it is, in my experience and in our experience as an organization helping agents, even though every market's different, every market's the same. Like humans are humans are humans. You've got to figure out the nuances, but ultimately, if you can figure out the story, use risk as a lever to create the bandwidth and the amount of leads and sales volume to happen, you can live the dream while you're telling them how to live the dream, and it all works.
Totally. You're right. It isn't just a real estate thing. What we're talking about is really any business.
Yeah.
And if you really just think about it, like I didn't know the stat was this high. I forget who mentioned it the other day, but I thought it was 79. It's either 69 or 79%. Either way, it's up through the roof of people use the first person they come into contact with.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Absolutely.
So it's like the goal is, and this is why we fight for attention so much, is it's like you have to be the first person they come in contact with, because you never know the moment that, like I'll give you an example. Like I've been in San Diego this is going to be 2 years in July. And when we moved here, I had no idea where I'm at. We got a 2-year lease, right? So we're going to have to move this year. I know I'm moving this year, but I'm not ready to pick up the phone and call someone yet. But the day I do, I could tell you from my own D personality, I'm not going through 4 or 5 freaking realtors. I'm just going to go through one. And it's going to be the first one who answers their damn phone.
Totally.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know when that's going to be. I mean, that could be on a Saturday night at 4 p.m. I got a couple beers. I'm a little buzzed, and I'm like, and something grabs my attention, and boom, I make that call. Boom, that's my relationship. The concept of being everywhere all the time, that's what attention is, folks. And that's what we're talking about, is that the consistency of content creation, the consistency of running your ads, the consistency of telling stories is how you accomplish that.
Totally. And I love that you just said what you said, because it's kind of the inside out like truth that everyone needs to hear, is that that's how the local home buyer or home seller is thinking on a daily. They're actually not thinking about your business. They're thinking about their next beer, the next game, the next kids event, whatever it is. And I tell you, because we're probably not enough time to do this, because we could do this for hours. Like, just one like brain dead thing you should be doing as an agent. If you only want to spend $5 a day, spend $5 a day doing what I'm about to tell you until the end of time. You'll be a more popular, productive agent. And it is, until they shut Facebook down, which is not going to happen. Run video view campaigns on Facebook and hire someone to make a 30 to 60 second basically highlight video, just a whiz bam pow, catch your attention with, Mike the agent's face and the local status symbols of your city and community, and whether in houses and all that good stuff, and just make it dripping with your availability, your phone number, your text number, your website, whatever that is, and just run it to the 10-mile radius or 5 or 20 or whatever market you're wanting to penetrate, and just let it run. Let it run. Run a $5 ad 365 days this year. If you're not going to put any effort into anything else, do that. We call it Agent Spotlight. We have a service called Agent Spotlight. We do much more than that. Like we'll create the videos for them. We script it. We kind of put it together. But like, if you're listening to this and you're just like, hey, Mike and Josh, like, these are all great concepts, but I need something to do, like that, apply that. Just get an unbelievable, go to Upwork.com, go to Fiverr with 2Rs.com. find someone who's doing video editing, order a $20 or a $50 video, and put your identity all over it. Mix it in with client pictures and fun pictures at closing and pictures of houses, and just go out there and be top of mind and use the thing that everyone's already got in their hands and addicted to as your leverage point, and risk $5 a day or whatever.
It's a pretty good action step. A lot of the let's end with this question. I want to get your opinion on this. But no, folks, that's a good action step. And $50 video, something you're going to run every day of the year. That's just going to, what happens with video, at least what we see, is that, you're in the grocery store. Oh, I saw that video. And you're like, oh, wow, you actually watched that thing. I only thought I had 300 views. Right. And then you go to another party, like, oh, I'm seeing all your videos. And you're like, I only thought like 5 people watched that.
Yes.
And then then you go over here and you're in the grocery store, you're at another store, you're at a kid's soccer game, like, oh, dude, that thing was funny. I saw that. Oh, yeah, by the way, my mom and dad are going to be buying a house soon. Like, that's how this thing happens, right? This isn't freaking rocket science.
That's it.
This is constantly like, hey, here I am, here I am, here I am, here I am. And you guys have the tools in front of you. It's just a matter of whether you're going to do it or not. Quit I don't know what else to add on that. But
yeah,
I want to get your
stay in the batter's box.
Yeah. I want to get your final opinion on this. Video. We're all in on video. That's what our company does. But I want to get your opinion on the social media side, because you're in the ad spend. Videos, less expensive advertising dollars. It's higher impact brand recognition. Walk me through what you think what's your opinion on video going forward? Are you in? Are you out?
I'm in. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, until we have Star Wars hologram advertising type things, guys like Mark Zuckerberg and the guys over at Google who own YouTube, like, video's the future. Like, they're building their platforms around this. And as an advertiser who watches nerdy metrics like CPMs, it's way less expensive to get top of mind metrics like cost per 1,000 impressions. Like, it's going to be $4 to $7 CPM instead of $30 to $50 CPMs on a non-video ad or a different objective. So that's why I mentioned video view campaigns. Like, there's 12, I can't remember how many objectives there are now that you can choose when you run a Facebook ad, but the video view campaign is the objective that is the least expensive and you can have the most visibility. It is the agent visibility objective, that if you just want to be noticed in the restaurant, noticed at the ball field, noticed in the grocery store, that's it. And if you're an agent who doesn't want to be noticed, again, we need to have a different discussion. So those are, like, I'm all in on video. We're building, our company is building video into what we offer our clients. So I'm hedging my entire entity on the future of video as well.
Yep, us as well. Josh, great show.
Thanks, man.
I hope we got you guys some good value today. As you can see, folks, just start doing it. You start somewhere. Yes, you might not get it all right now, and you're not supposed to. But what you could do is probably the same thing Josh did. I know it's what I did. I picked up a book. I started reading it. I went to a conference. I learned it. I asked some questions. I got my answers. Then I had more questions, and I got more. Then I picked up another book, and I read it. Right? Like, you have to put in the time, man. You either run a business or you don't. Pick your poison. Josh, go ahead. The floor is yours. Go tell our visitors, our listeners, how they can reach you, how they can speak to you, and we'll get this wrapped up.
Yeah, thank you. Agentleads.co. Go there, book a phone call with me or one of my senior advisors. We'll walk you through kind of the new opportunity in online marketing, regardless of budget, that we're using as a vehicle to help take you above the money line. The money line is literally the line that you draw in the sand financially, so that you can cross it and increase your time and space freedom, obviously, by making more money and doing less work.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, man.
Folks, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Real Estate Marketing Dude Podcast. Show us some love. Leave us a comment. Share this stuff. Get your broker on this. Put a marketing dude in your office. Folks, if you want to get on camera, we show you how to do this shit with your cell phone. We will script, edit, produce. and distribute your videos for you without breaking the bank and hiring a whole production company. It's very simple. We make content creation easy. And most importantly is that we make it fun, because if it's not fun, I don't want you to do it. So that's it. Real Estate Marketing Dude is how you guys can find us. Josh, it's been a pleasure. I will chat with you soon, buddy, and appreciate your time.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.